Let
Christian.
go.
Oh, go ahead. It's up to see.
Welcome to the Ocean Protocol workshop. And today we have with us Christian and Nick from Ocean team. And Ocean Protocol is a community committed to kickstarting a new data economy that reaches every single person, company, and device, giving power back to data owners and enabling people to capture value from data to better our world. So, Nick and Christian, excited for your workshop today, and over to you.
Cool, thanks. So I guess we can jump into things. Thank you guys, MetricsDAO community, for having us. Me and Chris are super excited to tell you about all things ocean related, how Ocean Protocol works, why Ocean Protocol exists. We'll walk through some functions on publishing data assets, and then we'll jump into the challenge at hand and what we want to collaborate with MetricsDAO on for a data challenge initiative. So to start, we'll do Ocean Protocol and MetricsDAO data challenge series. Topics we're going to cover is what is Ocean Protocol, what are data NFTs, which is a foreign concept to somebody that hasn't been familiar with the Ocean Protocol ecosystem. We're going to talk about data challenges through Ocean Protocol as an initiative, what the goals are. We'll walk through some previous ones that we've done. Further, we'll enter Ocean Protocol and MetricsDAO Data Challenge as a series. This is going to run the whole month of July, and we're super excited to see what you guys come up with and collaborate together. And then alongside, we'll turn off the presentation for a brief moment, and we'll give you guys a live demo on how to publish an asset onto the ocean market. Go to the next slide, Chris. So what is Ocean Protocol? Ocean Protocol is one of the first ever blockchain companies that has existed in the world. And you can think about it like a decade-long experiment of combining artificial intelligence, blockchain, and crypto into one. So for a high level, Ocean is an open source toolkit that is set to fuel a new data economy. This is a world where individuals and organizations own their data as opposed to giving it away to traditional Web2 corporations that exploit the data and use it against you. You can break it up into two primary pillars of things that Ocean Protocol is. One is a decentralized data asset registry to upload, own, and actualize your data asset. And then the second arm is a privacy-preserving computation framework, which allows, the function is called compute to data. All compute to data really is an ability to run compute jobs on a data set without revealing the underlying data itself. We'll dive into what compute to data is, how to do it, and kind of map it as the sleeping giant that is inside Ocean Protocol. Keep going here, Chris. So the architecture of Ocean Protocol we're going to jump into here. This graphic really explains where we sit on the application and wallet layer. This allows you to publish assets, search for assets, filter through different data sets, create pools, add and remove payments, run compute jobs on the data asset itself. And you are accessing these through a DID. MetaMask is a really good example of decentralized identity. Underneath these applications are our open source libraries. You can view this on github.com/Ocean Protocol. It's one of the 2 or 3 most updated and active repositories in all of GitHub, which is a really awesome accomplishment for us. The 2 pillars that are used the most inside these libraries are OceanJS and OceanPy. OceanPy is an open source Python library that allows you to run scripts, and Ocean JavaScript is an application development toolkit. In between this, you can see middleware layers of Aquarius, Provider, and the Graph, searching metadata to support compute the data, and Aquarius is basically the place that you search for assets and can go cross-chain between Ethereum and Polygon. And then what makes this all happen are Ethereum smart contract functions, which is, we'd like to think about it like a data NFT factory. Primarily are ERC-721 and ERC-20 tokens. And then in this bottom right corner, you can see different mechanisms and use cases between using the smart contracts, which could be Splitting contracts, one signature, one payer, fixed rate exchanges, balancer pools, dispensers, and single-sided staking. So what is the explicit use case for an Ocean user? We'll get into that, don't you worry. This is a quote from one of our co-founders, Trent McConaughey. Trent is very well written and very well established in computer and machine learning space. Trent has been writing ML and artificial intelligence scripts since 1997, so almost the entirety of the internet. This quote says, the aim of Ocean Protocol is to equalize the opportunity to access data so that a much broader range of AI practitioners can create value from it, and in turn, spread the power of data. This network can be used as a foundational substrate to power a new ecosystem of data marketplaces and, more broadly, data sharing for public good. Think of Ocean Protocol like the access layer to the internet, and really shifting the paradigm to, instead of us handing over our intellectual property, the goal of Ocean Protocol is every individual, every enterprise, government, any person that or entity that is publishing data can own it and allow access to who gets to use that data. Let's keep going here. So let's talk about tokenizing the new data economy, and we'll start with what are Ocean data NFTs. I think, Chris, you want to dive into this for a hot minute?
Thanks, Nick. So let's clear out kind of what exactly that means to tokenize your kind of like data assets. So let's start at a very high level. Like what it even is when you define ownership. And so at a pragmatic way of thinking about ownership, it really is just having a bundle of rights that you can retain over an asset or service. You can decide what you use it for, who else can use it, and what they would need to do in order to use it. So ownership is really just defined as having a bundle of rights to do something. And so kind of a high level concept for this is like kind of DIDs and DDOs. And so these are really just kind of fancy ways of talking about kind of unique ways of identifying within the digital space. So a DID can be thought of as a kind of unique identifier that can help to kind of connect many different wallets, or individuals, or assets to a singular kind of unique identity. And a DDO is really just the document that describes the asset of the DID. And so you can think it might describe information. So and on what happens is the DID and DDO are put onto a registry. So let's keep going a little bit and get it more deeply. So like what exactly goes into a DDO? So you might have an asset represented by like a API endpoint or a CSV file. And so you might need information. The DDO might be who is the owner, a description of what the asset is, what services can be done with the asset or on top of the asset, what credentials are necessary in order to access that, what copyright, who owns the copyright to this asset, what type of licenses are attacked, what are the access control conditions to access it. So really think of a DDO as a long list of information about an asset, of who owns it and who can do what with it. And so what Ocean does is we kind of take the concept of DDIs and DDOs and apply it to using and wrap it around existing standards in the crypto space of NFTs and ERC20s. And so when you mint an Ocean data NFT, what you're doing is you're taking your asset, pointed to where it is off chain, whether that asset be a CSV file or an algorithm that performs a task or a model or an API endpoint, really whatever. You put it directly, that information is stored in a structured DDO format directly into the metadata of NFT, encrypted directly on chain, allowing NFTs to represent a vehicle for ownership, of being able to kind of have a one-of-one of your asset and how you define it there. And so attached to that DID in that data NFT are data tokens, which are pretty much just ERC20, using the ERC20 standard, which allows for flexible sublicense to be attached to an asset. For example, you might have a CSV file that you may want to charge one sublicense where you create ERC20s, where if someone purchases it, they can download the asset, if they pay $10, and in exchange, they'll have access for 7 days. Or you might want another where you only allow computation to be run on it for $5 and 1 day access. You might have one license where you allow commercial use of your asset, or you might want another where someone can download it for free if they're on a whitelist and they can only use it for non-commercial purposes. And so the NFT and data token model from Ocean Protocol really creates a really flexible standard that be able to leverage data sharing. So with the NFT representing your base IP ownership, wrapping around what are all the credentials needed for accessing it, and the ERC20 creating a very simple way of sharing flexible ways of accessing it. And so what this really kind of allows is by wrapping kind of these standards, you can have crypto native pretty APIs where instead of having someone like purchase access to your data set with one way and paying for it on traditional rails, when they get their access token is really what they're paying for directly. And so you can have so it has a lot of benefits there. And so a quick idea of how that looks like. When you mint an NFT, the metadata of around the NFT is what's there, and you have a service to allow access to it. So instead of having to manage many different types of authorizations between AWS, between like Google Cloud, between another service, you kind of just wrap all of those in the NFT and data token standard, allowing a seamless way to transact and share data and assets around this ecosystem instead of having to manage all ton of these. So really what you allow is kind of on-ramping to the world of crypto. And so how can you manage all of your different subscriptions to different data providers or AI services? Well, and how do you kind of manage your identity to make sure they're using your data correctly? Well, you just use a normal crypto wallet using your ERC20s as your access control tokens, which you can revoke and unrevoke at any time. You can create, can you collaborate with others? Well, you can just create a multi-sig wallet around around the data NFT and allow teammates to easily share and take part in the upside of your thing. How can you have data provenance of, okay, where did this data come from? What type of data was a model trained on? Well, you don't even have to reinvent the wheel there. You can just use existing tools such as Etherscan and the flip side, Dune. Already these tools that are already custom built to kind of analyze NFTs and ERC20s, they can be immediately repurposed for kind of becoming a really straight data provenance auditor for the data economy. And so by repurposing it, existing standards around crypto really allows for a lot of like utility to go in. And so what does that mean exactly when you say that you are publishing an asset? Well, when you're publishing an asset with Ocean Protocol, really what you mean is you're tokenizing the ownership and access control. And so here's an example, if I can, on the front end, what it looks like when you're publishing it, where it could be a URL that links to an S3 bucket or an IPFS CID, or it could be an API endpoint where you have to put in your control key. It could be a GraphQL query where you're putting in your keys. It really is extremely flexible, where what you're doing is taking all these many different types, usually when the Web2 world, where all these different types of access control mechanisms that you'd have to manage in a kind of a heterogeneous way. It allows the ability to wrap them all in standards of NFTs and ERC20s so that you can have homogeneous ways of interacting with the data ecosystem. And really take advantage of all the benefits of natural provenance that blockchain provides. So when you publish an asset, this is a small example of what it looks like, where you might have the example of like title of what it is, a short description of what it is, access to the owner, and then because it's on chain, you can start to unlock very cool benefits, such as audible history of every time the metadata is changed. You can start to see verified sales figures for how many times people have downloaded it in the corner here. You can publish it as a CSV file. It could be a zip file of many files. It could be a model. It could be an algorithm. So it allows really a flexible thing of sharing your assets for the data economy because you're wrapping it around normal standards. And this is an example of one of the cool benefits where now how someone claims they have a really great model. How can you kind of trust if like they claim what they is? Well, everything can be directly queried on chain using subgraphs. And so you can really have a really enhanced transparency into this data economy. And so we can start to have a world where people really trust what they're looking at. You can have audibility of, okay, this image I'm viewing online definitely was created from a model. Here's the link for it. Or this was created by a human. Here, I can trace it online. And so by having this, you can have full audibility for compliance reasons as well of who had access to your data and when, and what did they do with it. And that's one of the really coolest aspects of kind of what Ocean Protocol has done. The beauty of being able to, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel the data economy will need self-custodial ownership. It'll need a way to define ownership, a way to share it. Instead of trying to create a standard from scratch and then expecting the world to adopt it, Ocean Protocol has repurposed the existing standards of the crypto ecosystem. So now NFTs just become a standard for data ownership. Data tokens, ERC20s become a standard for sharing data. Crypto wallets become a standard for retaining ownership of your access control to your different assets. You can have Etherscan for data provenance. You can already use existing tooling around DAOs to kind of create a shared group of sharing asset of your data. And so by kind of leveraging these existing standards, we can repurpose them. And so we can really do a lot more without reinventing the wheel. Now I'm going to kind of briefly touch on another aspect of Ocean called compute the data. We're not going to go too much into it in this session, but we can answer more questions after the presentation if anyone would like more understanding of how compute the data works. So a basic way of using compute the data is the reason why it was created was to help to resolve the trade-off between open data value and privacy concerns. So by that, what I mean, when you share data and kind of make it open, you can start to unlock really cool benefits. You can allow others to create insights on your behalf. People can connect it to other sources to have more insights into how the world works. However, there's also a trade-off where once you allow data to be out in the wild, you really lose control of who accesses it. So from a privacy standpoint, if you allow others to download your data, then you start to really lose privacy. And so there is kind of a scale where you can, if you try to either have max utility, anyone can use my data, and then you can have the most possible applications of it, but you lose all privacy. While on the other end, if you try to have max privacy, no one can view my data. Well, you're going to be safe with your data. However, you're not going to be able to kind of enhance some of the benefits that you see like in open source software development, where many people working at it on a decentralized way can start to really add up. And so the ideal situation you see is somewhere we can both allow open access to data while still maintaining privacy. It's a very tough trade-off. However, that's what compute the data was built for. So the basic idea for compute the data is that what you do is a data publisher, they can allow someone to run an algorithm on their model. And so using Ocean smart contracts as a coordination vehicle, they can kind of create a containerized environment where the data and algorithm are stringed together. The model algorithm is run on top of the data set, and then the outputs are sent back to the model, to the buyer. So instead of the buyer having to be able to download and access the data set in order to train on it, they can actually just put the algorithm they want to use to train, have it be done, and be able to see just the results. So now from a data publisher standpoint, they can help resolve the trade-off between, okay, I want others to be able to access and learn from my data, but I don't want them to see the individual data itself. Helping to resolve this trade-off can really open up a ton of use cases around in many different fields, between financial services, between healthcare, medical data, climate, and kind of regulatory like compliance, by really kind of helping to unlock that trade-off between open transparency and privacy. Once again, and we see kind of the architecture of Ocean Protocol of how these pieces fit together, where the smart contracts are helping to onboard you to the existing crypto ecosystem using data NFTs and ERC20s. And then the various Ocean libraries help you to coordinate and make use of those different aspects of this, where you can have a smart contract for transacting with these assets. You can use compute the data to coordinate procuring compute resources to run computation on it. So all these kind of tools work together to kind of create a full end-to-end data economy. Instead of having to reinvent all of this entire economy from scratch, we've just repurposed the existing standards of crypto to vastly accelerate what we can do. Cool. So I believe I want to pause real quick and kind of show kind of a quick demo of what is the publishing asset.
Do you want to do that right now, or do you want to talk about the data challenge?
Okay, let's do that first then, yeah. Cool. So now we're going to talk about the data challenge we're going to be running with them. And so quick insights. What we've done in the past several data challenges with the Ocean community with a basic formula of here's a provided data set that we need to do, or go get your own. And here's your goal. For example, we had one where people analyzed different liquidity provision strategies on kind of dexes within crypto. We've had one where we analyzed the air quality with data from the government of Catalonia. We've had a recent one where we kind of used the model to predict real estate and rent prices in Dubai using government open data. So for this challenge within the MetricsDAO community, we're going to be focusing on a use case within the crypto space. And so the goals of the data challenge with Ocean Protocol are constantly to really empower data scientists, to really allow them to monetize and earn from their goal. So as opposed to Kaggle, where it's a good learning experience and people are able to kind of take part and earn competitions, with Ocean, you're able to retain full IP ownership of the models you create. You can revoke it at any time. And so by really allowing this, we can start to foster a place where almost freelance data scientists, engineers can come, create value, and then join together to form downstream businesses. So we'll go into a little more later.
If you want to just go back to that slide of the goals of data challenges, it really is cut and dry and to empower the data scientists. This has been an ongoing experiment to build tools and mechanisms to help the data scientist give more data-driven analytics, to create models, and to create more data-informed decisions. These are practice to help him or her get a job, help him or her build their resume, help him or her practice tools using Python, machine learning algorithms, and using data analysis questions. This could be at a university level, this could be at an enterprise level, this could be somebody that's just trying to get started. It's free to submit. There are rewards for submitting, and we're just trying to really create this ecosystem and community of data scientists around the world. Empower the data scientists with all of these, what did we say here? Allow individuals to monetize their work through Ocean NFTs, help build resumes and hands-on experience with data engineering, data architecture, data pipelines, and data science, and creating new business models based on business intelligence, business architecture, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. I think the next slide will talk through a challenge that we've had in the past. So this was a really good example on a recent one we had, which was focused on Dubai real estate and forecasting and evaluating property value. So in this one, we provided analysts with a data set of the last 3 years worth of sales, of rent of homes, and rental prices. So for data analysis, we asked participants to find correlations between square footage and sale and rental prices. We asked them to compare and contrast evolving trends of the rental and sales in the real estate market, particularly in Metro Dubai. We asked a number of machine learning algorithms to come up. One was to develop an algorithm to estimate the appropriate market value of a given property according to its attributes, square footage, location, so on and so forth. Another algorithm to predict the correct rental price of a property according to these characteristics, and so on and so forth. These submissions have been based on data analysis questions, machine learning, which are more open-ended. This is where we let you really get creative and say, what hypothesis can you prove, quantify, and explain into a report. If your report is valid, there's a bonus for 250 Ocean that is rewarded for your participation. I think now that that is under the way, we can talk about what we want to collaborate with MetricsDAO. So the task for this collaboration between Ocean Protocol Data Challenges and MetricsDAO is to decipher user behavior in DeFi protocols.
So
let's jump
now,
in.
people now on this call are getting a sneak peek of kind of a soon to be released challenge with the MetricsDAO community. So what is this challenge about? Well, the long-term goal is we're going to be starting this over time. We're really creating a marketplace for a one-stop shop to kind of define advanced customer analytics for Web3 protocols, and on behalf for both protocols for their own intelligence, as well as for investors to learn more about kind of different protocols and how much capital they should be putting in there. And so, as you see in the quick example, here's the goal. The goal is to kind of create an initial data set and then go into it. So let's go look at some of the details. So this challenge is going to happen in 2 phases. In phase 1, the goal is for everyone to kind of choose a protocol they want to kind of analyze and go out and build a really highly valuable data set. As a quick example, we kind of showed you how your data set might want to be structured, where you're in charge of being able to grab all the transactions and clean it so that we can, for each protocol, we can have a list of starting with like a user ID and then going down to different information you might want to include that can help to analyze and kind of put a cluster into each individual user. Some things we helped include, such as their first interaction date, their total transactions, like how much they've totally transacted total, their average transaction value. You guys are all encouraged to be as creative as you can to kind of create this data set. You can use existing ones. You can use labels from any existing data providers within the MetricsDAO ecosystem. You can create your own metrics, like based on calculations you have. Whatever you believe might be a good way of defining like how to kind of group different of these people together, add them in there. It's on the job for downstream to figure out what's the most important. So don't be afraid of kind of putting in too much noise to begin with, because those can always be dropped later. And so you should be able to build up. And so the goal is to really create a really highly valuable data set. In order to submit it, what you're going to be doing is publishing your data set as an asset on the Ocean market. And so what you're going to be doing is after you kind of created all your data sets, you're going to export it and host it on a hosting service such as IPFS. You can use Amazon S3. You can use Arweave. If you can fit, you can maybe use GitHub. It might be too large. But really, you can go into our docs to find out easy ways to do kind of like remote hosting services. And then you're going to publish your data set as an asset on Ocean. If you want to use our simple front-end interface, you can just do it and make it a free asset. If you'd like there to be more security, you can contact us. If you kind of go through our docs and publish an asset using our Ocean Pi library, it's really easy to add another credential where you can add our judges' whitelisted wallets, so that only they can access it. If you want to publish your data set so that anyone can access it. However, we encourage you guys to maybe publish it for free, to this initial one for free, to encourage people to kind of build models on top of your data set. Because a very easy way to monetize later on is making the initial static data set for free, but charging in order to access a dynamic data set that can be used for inference as these models are built. For phase one, the quality, that will be judged by the quality of like the accuracy of your data you've created, and really how well you articulate your methodology for creating your data sets. There'll be a simple form for you guys to submit your kind of like reports. And so this will be able to help us judge to determine how well you've built your data set and the critical thinking you went into thinking why the features you've chosen are important. Cool. We'll do that.
So now we will pause and give you guys a walkthrough on using the Ocean Market and actually publishing an asset and what the steps are that go into that. So Chris, we're gonna, let me share my screen. We'll go back to Chris's slides in a moment. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Let's see. You guys see this? This is the Ocean Market. So you travel to market.oceanprotocol.com. Here you'll see you have two options. You can publish or you can look at your profile. But first, we are going to connect a wallet. I will use MetaMask. Give it a second. So for this example, we are going to use Mumbai testnet. It's important to note that Ocean allows Ethereum and Polygon mainnet as well as testnets. So in this example, I will use Mumbai testnet with some test Ocean. Just to play around here, you can see these are the highest allocations that token holders are using VE Ocean towards data sets. But we're going to see my profile. Here's my wallet address. Here are some things I've published in the past. And here is to publish a regular asset. Publish into Mumbai. First step is understanding the metadata. The metadata is just data about the data. So this is an Ocean Data NFT. This represents an asset on the Ocean Protocol v4 ecosystem. For the sake of this challenge, in phase one, we're only going to ask you upload a data set. So in this asset type, we'll choose data set. In my example, I'm going to use a data set of NFL quarterbacks ratings and their performance. So for a title, I will say NFL quarterback and performance. Let's make sure performance data. How do I want the data to be described? I'm going to say this data set is raw data, and metrics from quarterbacks in the NFL from in the 2020 to 2021 season. Alongside the metadata, we'll choose an author. The author could be myself. This is an optional. Give the proper attribution to your data set. You're welcome to use a stage name or an author name or anything that you want relevant. So for this example, I might not want to see that I'm Nick, so I'll be Superman. Sure. Tags. These tags are like hashtags, so I can do hashtag data analysis. I can do hashtag DeFi. This was DeFi related data. I could use farming. This could be farm data or maybe healthcare. And then the terms and conditions are just proving that you want to own this. This is yours, so on and so forth. So this is step one, metadata. We will press continue. The next step is access. So as Chris just described, the ERC 721 that you might think of as an NFT is actually the mechanism that holds the data set. The ERC 20 is not a scam coin or a pump up coin or a utility token. Instead, the utility for this ERC 20 is allowing access. So this function is the image that shows what the token will look like. And this is the name for the 20. This can be regenerated to be a squid token. These are silly enemy tokens. This could be a clownfish token. You can keep regenerating and say, we're going to be a gentle ling token. Moving forward, the access type, you have two different options if you want this to be a downloadable asset or a compute asset. But for the MetricsDAO and understanding customer analytics, phase one is just asking for a downloadable asset type. So we'll stick with downloader. As we described in the architecture, Ocean Provider should be able to handle anything you guys publish on the Ocean market. If you wanted to use an alternative one, you could have a custom provider or leave it as the default one. For this example, probably recommending leaving it as the default one, as the Ocean Provider is quite powerful. Chris kind of talked about the different file types in using IPFS, Arweave, a URL, a GraphQL, or a smart contract. In an IPFS example, we'd look for the content ID. So if I post a CID here and validate it, it will show me to validate. But in this example, I'm actually going to use a URL for simplicity. So I'm going to go to my GitHub and I'm going to find this data that can you guys just see this tab or can you see more? Let me see if I can drag this over and see if this shows up.
I think you'd have to change your share screen. It's like by tab.
Well, I can verbalize it instead. So this file needs to be a raw GitHub file. So let me change the tab, new tab. We'll go to raw GitHub and this. Let me want you guys to be able to see this. Stop sharing view tab. Okay. Well, you guys, I'm assuming, understand GitHub. So the GitHub URL needs to be the CSV file, and then when you click on it in GitHub, you'll click in the top right corner that says raw. So this file will link raw GitHub user content. This is my profile, Nix33 _ NFL data Python main data. This is my raw file. I can get this or I can submit this. I will submit the URL. This file is confirmed. Below, we'll see a sample file, which is a sample URL. This will come from my main GitHub page without clicking raw. So you'll see back here, we'll click file, GitHub. This will validate that it actually exists. Worth noting that the end user in the asset you publish won't see where it comes from because it's private. So I will validate this. And the file is confirmed. It's a real file, HTML. So here we have the access type download. We're using the Ocean Provider. We have the raw file as a URL. This could also be IPFS, Arweave, GraphQL, CSV, smart contract. We validated it in the sample file as a URL. The last step in access is to timeout. This is defining how long buyers of your data should be able to download the data set after the initial purchase. Your options are forever, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. I'm going to make this forever because Ocean Protocol is timeless, and we will press continue. The third step in publishing an asset is pricing. So if you have one question that just came up in the comments is what's an explicit end use case? Let's say you have a trading algorithm and you want to monetize this and allow other people to use it. You can put this at a fixed rate priced in Ocean as a utility for buying data in the marketplace. You can make this whatever you want. This could be 20 Ocean, this could be 50 Ocean, this could be 100 million, 1,000 Ocean. It's whatever you think is the demand for the asset. But for this example, I'm going to keep this as free, and maybe you guys can use this as an example when trying to publish your own asset. We're going to make this free. Set your data set as free. The token for the data set will be given free via creating a faucet. Yes. The price, I want to agree and confirm that the NFT I'm creating should be free. Now we will continue. Preview. So this is what it looks like. I'm on Mumbai testnet, and the title of the package that I'm offering is NFL quarterback and performance data. This data set is raw data in the description that we wrote earlier. You're able to download a sample of my data. Let me data Ethereum blog transactions. These are the tags, the author, DX. I'm the owner. My name is nicholascaruso.eth. I want this data set to be free. This data is for Ethereum, but that should be okay for the example. If I press continue, there's two transactions you need to sign. One is creating the ERC20 token for access, which is one transaction. Again, the data NFT is representing your asset in the data set that you curate based on this challenge. The data tokens are defining access to it, and the price schema is all what you make of it. For this challenge, we'll make it free. So step one, I will submit. Now my MetaMask should pop up here. You'll see step one, it's going to ask me to create my own tokens for my data set. It will cost 3 cents to do this. Create an NFT with ERC20 dispenser. I will confirm this. We'll let it sit for a second and process. Done. You can view the transaction that's processed. Next, the mechanism is constructing and encrypting the DDO, as Christian mentioned earlier. The second step is publishing the DDO, which is another transaction I will sign. This DDO is stored on chain, a part of the end of the NFT. That was another question in the comments. And where is the encryption stored? It's stored on chain. This transaction will cost 2 cents on Matic. I will confirm this. Give it 1 moment to process, maybe 10 or 15 seconds, no different than any other MetaMask transaction if you were to buy, sell, swap, or send something. So we will wait here. Success! We have successfully published the data asset. Now I will click here to view my asset. This needs usually like 25 or 30 seconds. Here you can see my DID. I will refresh the page. Do it one more time. Just needs to load into the marketplace, which may take a moment. You cannot find an asset with the DDO. Yeah, wait some seconds and refresh this page. So let's wait 5 seconds. Refresh this one more time. Something is not right here. It also could still be loading. We live in an impatient world, in an impatient crypto community. So sometimes we need to stop and look around for a second. Well, for the sake of time, it might take more than 60 seconds for this to happen. To validate, I will go on my profile and I'll see, these are ones that I've done in the past as data sets. Let's go backwards and confirm this. Well, that's the steps. It was confirmed on the Block Explorer that I can see in the previous step. You can see the Ocean and the Matic I have, the testnet. These are all the networks that you are available to publish on. It is agnostic to testnet or mainnet. The only variable is if you're spending real money or not, right? So Ethereum mainnet, Polygon mainnet, Gurley as an Ethereum testnet, and Mumbai as a testnet. I like to keep all these for different purposes, and Mumbai might be malfunctioning right now. Well, regardless, we'll go backwards and I will stop sharing. I will show you guys the URLs I used. So let's go to my GitHub. Here is a data set that I curated, Nick's Caruso 33, NFL Ocean data. This is all quarterbacks and metrics of the 2020 and 2021 NFL football season. So see the data set. This is the data set that validated the URL, but to publish, I needed to use the raw data set. This little click button, raw. I get all the raw data. I take this hyperlink and I put it into the stream. We can go through questions on how that works, but this is not doing what I want it to. It's the raw data. That's how you publish on the market. Chris, if you want to go back to your slides and maybe talk about phase 2 beyond publishing the asset. Let me get back here. I'm going to keep this market page open because it usually takes 2 or 3 minutes to actually retrieve the asset.
There we go. Cool. So 1 sec, things loading. Awesome. So cool. So after you kind of publish your data set onto Ocean, phase 2 of the competition will involve kind of building a model and building a report answering that. So what you should do is choose a data set that was published in phase 1, or you can choose to restart the whole process and build your own from scratch. Then your goal is to kind of build a model to kind of create a cluster of different users of that protocol. So just using kind of a simple k-means clustering out like modeling algorithm, but really it's really up to the people how exactly you want to do that. Then after you build your model, you should run it, and then you'll be submitting is a report explaining your model and putting in some of the key insights you have from there. For example, like you might want to be able to identify what are the unique user cohorts that you've identified, what are their behaviors such as like key metrics, like and how often are they like interacting with the protocol. And then lastly, you'll be making distinct recommendations based on your analysis of what the protocol should do based on like what you found.
So for clarity, phase 1 is to develop the data set. In this challenge, we won't provide you a data set, and we want you to be creative. And in the slide 1, Christian kind of talked about what your data set should look like. These are merely recommendations of what we think should be included in the data set. And phase 2 is where you really get creative and identify unique user cohorts of a specific protocol and be able to quantify their behaviors, right, and key metrics. That's phase 1 and phase 2 of the protocol. Now we're going to flip back to Ocean and talk about ways that you can engage with Ocean protocol itself. So there's a lot of options here, and we have a huge community around the world. The majority of our community is in North America, Eastern Europe, and Asia. Asia is in like the Middle East and Singapore. Dubai is a really hot place. That's why we did the real estate in Dubai. So these options here that we are labeling out is building on Ocean. Ocean is open source toolkits, right? So anybody has the ability to fork the Ocean market and create their own private market. You can create an application and an interface on Ocean.js, or you can run your own algorithms and as a starting point with Ocean Python. Another use case is the smart contract library, which you can do for any function you could ever imagine using smart contracts. Second part is data challenges. You can see a leaderboard on oceanprotocol.com/challenges on ones that we ran, different outcomes, predictions. A lot of the best submissions are available as data assets on the Ocean market. There's blog posts that will go into those details, which we'll get into. So number 1 is building on Ocean. Number 2, data challenges. I think there's a couple more slides here, Chris, for the next more options. More options. Another option is data farming. Data farming is the Ocean protocol version of yield farming or liquidity mining in DeFi. So it's similar to a yield farming in a traditional DeFi protocol, but most DeFi protocols, you don't really know where the yield comes from. Data farming is one of the only no and permanent loss yield mechanisms in all of decentralized finance. there's two different ways to earn rewards. One is active, one is passive. For passive reward, to be eligible, all you need to do is go to df.oceandao.org and stake your Ocean into VE Ocean. VE Ocean is a direct fork of the VE curve model, meaning vote escrowed curve. And for passive rewards, if you are a VE Ocean token holder, you will receive passive rewards. Active rewards are where things really get interesting, where active rewards are contingent on data consumed volume of data purchased on the marketplace and other forks of the marketplace. And every application that uses Ocean Protocol, there's a 0.01% fee that is either burned in the protocol or given as like a revenue share you can think of in active rewards. So that's data farming. That's a way for degens to be creative and to stake into Ocean. And for all of these questions, the blog is the best place to find your answers about protocol updates, product initiatives, data farming, data challenges, technical guides. You can find this at blog.oceanprotocol.com. It will either be myself, Trent McConaughey, Christian, or a couple of other well-written team members will publish onto the blog. So those are 4 different really unique and uncorrelated ways to get involved with Ocean. Another one is templates. This is an initiative we started maybe February or March of 2023, where these are repository packages that have been developed to really encourage entrepreneurs or people with creative ideas to build a business with a starting point. You can find this at oceanprotocol.com/templates. And these examples are few and far between, right? One is to buy and sell a marketplace for peer-to-peer online workshops and people hosting strategic initiatives that way. We've been finding a lot of demand for people wanting to monetize their ebooks. So that was another idea, to create a template for a peer-to-peer platform to trade and buy and allow access, right? The access layer to on-demand ebooks. Digital art really ties into the original thesis of Ocean Protocol, which started in 2013, labeled as a scribe. A scribe was a place for artists to own their intellectual property and their output on Bitcoin. In today's world, that would have been known as an NFT marketplace, but this was before the term NFT existed or Ethereum was even a thing. So the 2023 version now is a template to use a decentralized marketplace to sell your own art, your AI generative art, or basically anything that's your own intellectual property that you would like to monetize, own, and allow access to. The last one is, in this example, is e-commerce platforms. If you have user interface kits, SDKs, templates, plugins that you play around with, you can monetize this with Ocean Protocol templates. So yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to engage with the protocol. We covered a lot here on protocol mechanics, on the data challenge we'd like to run with Ocean or with MetricsDAO. We talked about publishing an asset in the market, which I just am looking that it did publish, but we just needed to wait 3 minutes to see. So the logistics are there. I'd like to open for questions, comments, concerns. Really want to encourage people to join our Discord or Telegram or Twitter communities where you can volley questions. We have a really active team around the world, 24/7 support for DevOps, using OceanPi, publishing to the Ocean market, data farming, data science hubs. We have a huge team, and we really want your feedback and want to collaborate with you and empower you, right? So maybe right now, oh, go ahead, Chris.
Cool. So we have some questions from the audience on the side here. So we'll start in chronological order, going through them. So an explicit use case for an Ocean user. This might be you might be a data engineer who understands all the kind of crypto and how to build data sets. And so you don't really know the modeling part, but you want to still get involved. So you publish data sets there. Or you might really only know you don't really like dealing with all that data set stuff, and you really like building nice fancy models. So an Ocean user might want to purchase a data set and then build their model from there. And so it's really, explicit use case is really being able to monetize and share different parts of the data value creation loop, from raw data to clean data to built model to application. So then Marina says, where does the encrypted URL to the data live? So that's actually encrypted and directly held on chain in the NFT in encrypted form. What happens is there's a microservice that Ocean has called Provider, which you can either trust Ocean Protocol to run, or you can easily run yourself to kind of protect your own data, which when a user kind of has a requisite data tokens to access your asset, it'll unencrypt the URL and stream the data set to the user. So the provider is the only one that's able to kind of unencrypt and encrypt the information on chain. And so it helps to a user. It's up to the user to determine if they want to have a trusted third party do it on their behalf or to run it themselves. So that Marina, again, talking about the interplay between Ocean and Graph protocol. And so one of the cool things about Ocean is when you kind of since we're using existing standards for NFTs in ERC20s, we can leverage stuff like the graph for analyzing that. So I showed a little bit on there where, okay, now you have your different asset sales tied to that NFT. You can use Ocean subgraphs we've created and also go and find it from the graph in order to analyze, get verified sales figures, figure out who exactly purchased it. So you can do both advanced customer analytics, as well as if you're evaluating whether to trust and purchase the asset, you can see verified signals of who exactly has purchased it in the past. So helping to really have greater transparency and trust in this data world. So how to generate a prediction model? Yeah, however you want to do that. It's pretty much all you gotta do is find the data. And it's up to the user to determine how exactly they want to kind of build the model. And you can either do a simple linear regression, or for this data challenge specifically, means clustering might be a good choice. If you want to make it a compute asset, you can go into it where basically all you're doing is you create a Docker image of the model you've done. And when you publish that, that allows the kind of Docker container to be created if you want someone to use your algorithm to run computation. And so do I understand correctly, there are two approaches: give data access directly versus data stays on premise. So it's more the same thing. So when you publish an asset, you can have a few different options. You can make it fully free where anyone can kind of purchase that token and access it. Or you might want to make it where anyone has to first purchase it. So they have to pay $20 in order to first do it. Or if you want even more control over your assets, what you can do is publish it, and then using some of the more tools that aren't really there on the front end, but if you want to use our libraries for more enhanced functionalities, you can create a whitelist, where you can only put certain specific wallets are allowed to purchase it. So that really kind of allows flexible fine-grained access control, so that, okay, I'm going to publish it, so only Judge's wallet are allowed to access it, or only my teammate is allowed to use this asset. So it helps you can take advantage of the kind of discoverability aspect of using crypto, but without having some of the kind of openness.
The whole point of that is allowing choice, right? It's up to you, the person who owns the data or who created the data or who created value out of thin air, right? If I have a super valuable query that I'm using on Dune and I think other people want to use this, I can monetize this and I can share this with people, and I can allow the choice who gets it. Does anybody get it? Do I want to share it with my friend? Do I want to share it with my teammate? Do I want to share it across an organization? Choice and options. That's the takeaway from that question that I had.
Cool. Now, Zane and Marina both have similar questions about where exactly the data is held. So it's completely up to the user, and we're agnostic about the choice they use for their storage option. They can choose to do it in IPFS, Arweave. They can choose to do it on S3. They can use centralized options, or they can use decentralized ones. We encourage centralized ones could be good if you want to have additional security involved. And there are some directions in our docs for how you can still have an encryption on your S3 bucket while still sharing it. But decentralized ones we encourage long term. We believe that will be kind of the future, because you can kind of start to create a lot more trusted monetization vehicles since you can't. Whereas with centralized ones, even if you publish the link, the user might not pay their AWS bill, and so the data might be gone. Whereas if they use something like Arweave, and they publish that asset, it will always be there at that address.
I think worth noting or clarifying that Ocean Protocol actually owns no data. Some people often think that you're uploading the data into Ocean Protocol and giving it to us. Couldn't be further from the truth. These are just toolkits to enable you or the organization to own the data. And decentralized storage, we do think, is the future. Filecoin and Arweave are the most popular. IPFS, a raw URL will never be exposed. So there's different mechanisms. Again, back to options.
So, and he said, is there a way to connect Ledger to use Ocean tokens on or Polygon? So I believe that's maybe saying if you have Ocean tokens in your Ledger wallet, I believe you should be able to using Wallet Connect. We have that as kind of standard in there. So I think if you go into that.
Yeah, if you go to publish on the market itself, you have options of Wallet Connect or Trust Wallet or MetaMask. and you could try it that way. I know some people that only use ledgers and they like to upload to the market themselves.
Cool. I've never built an ML model. Is there a beginner-friendly guide to do this? And so for the actual ML stuff, there's actually there's plenty of online guides you can free for kind of getting started. I'd search stuff around kind of how to do kind of customer clustering. There's some small Kaggle competitions where they've done some example data sets. And so then what you can do with that is going from there. But also, if you're really more focused on not really the ML side, but you want to be more focused on creating really good data sets and like using SQL, that's where the phase one of the competition comes in, where you can still contribute to advanced analytics by creating a really good data set that others with more experience in ML can then use themselves. Cool. Then for data DAOs, and so one thing, cool, interesting one is kind of this company called Data Union, who has helped to kind of create several different data DAOs on top of it. Some they've done for Facebook data, where users are able to kind of upload their exports from their Facebook exports called We Data Nation, which allows them to kind of pull it together and help sell it to specific advertisers who are looking for kind of like specific demographics. Another one they've done is for health data, where users are able to upload data from their kind of smartwatches to kind of pull their healthcare data together. Now, another interesting use case that we're also in the middle of helping develop is kind of like around data labeling, in which case for training open source like foundation models, like you see with like all this AI, where data DAOs can be formed, where people contribute, create a data set, and then all they need to do is mint an NFT, hold it around a multi-sig wallet using like maybe Safe or really any other ones, and boom, you have a data DAO right there, built around a common data set you've built together. And so if anyone has any interest in data unions, feel free to also like hit me up. Any questions or interesting things you might want to build. My Telegram is literally just Christian Casaza, my name, no spaces. So pretty easy to find and hit me up there. And so, cool. Any other questions? I know we have about a minute left.
Thank you guys for listening to us. I'm sure will be some questions in these processes. Do we know if this is going to be recorded or if this has been recorded?
Yes. Yeah, so thank you very much, Nick and Christian, for the amazing presentation. And thank you for everyone here for your activity and for asking all the questions. And this presentation is going to be on our YouTube channel, so it will be available to watch afterwards at any time.
Awesome.
Cool. So I guess to conclude, I would point you guys in the direction of Ocean Protocol Discord. Christian's Telegram is open for DMs, just first name, last name. Mine is exactly the same, Nick Scavuzzo. So engage with us, use this as a resource if you have questions, or dev support in our Discord is probably the way to get the quickest response. There's people all around the world in 8 or 9 different time zones. So further conversation can be had there. Chris and I will be there. And yeah, thank you guys again for joining. I hope you learned or enjoyed the time speaking to us or listening to us speak. And yeah, really excited about this challenge. It's going to run the whole month of July. So hopefully we can engage with you guys, make some new friends, and build some cool stuff together.
Thanks, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Christian, Nick, and everyone for attending today. And we'll see you in the community and hope to get a lot of you involved in the challenge as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.